Well, it looks like your boy Ego was right yet again. New York State Athletic Commission, they have decided in the case of Tank versus Roach to allow the fight to remain a draw, meaning they will not overturn the results of the fight, no matter how much you guys hated, cried, lied, and complained. The ruling from the initial night of the fight, Tank Roach, it remains the same, and it will continue to remain the same. Link in the description. New York State Athletic Commission, Tank Roach to remain a draw. It's over, people. The commission has decided not to alter the draw between WBA lightweight champion Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach going on. So Two judges scored the night 10-9 for Davis, a monumental turn of events that allowed for the America's most popular star to preserve the draw, right? It is a disappointment, but we had to protest, said Pro Box founder Gary Jonas, whose company backs Roach. We can only control what we can control. Once we get Lamont back in the ring with Gervonta Davis, we'll have a chance to get it right in the ring. Which is what I said from the beginning. It should have always just been a rematch. An unofficial win is almost as good as a win, Cap. The response and support for the young man Roach has given his career a major leap. Yeah, because he fought Tank and no one cared before. All Lamont has to do is control how he does in the ring next time. Lamont won the fight in the public's eyes, Cap, and we'll take that. So, again, Lamont Roach and the Roach infestation, their claim to fame is almost. We almost beat this guy, Gervonta Davis. We came close to beating this guy, Gervonta Davis. Listen, I told you I am the best in the business, and it's not even close. Like, I show so much separation. If you listen to the content, I told you, for one, this fight would not be overturned. Well, guess what? Surprise, mother trucker. Like Nate Diaz said, the fight, they chose not to overturn it. Why would they? Why would they overturn this fight? I still have yet to see one intelligent answer. You could say, Gervonta, you expected more. Lamont did better than you expected. You know, whatever you want to say, that doesn't mean you go back in and change the results of a contest that has ended, period, right? And because Tank has so many fans, the flip side of that coin is haters. So having that many haters, they blew it out of proportion. It's like if you normally close your door and you normally close the screen, it limits the amount of pests, flies, and mosquitoes that can get in, gnats. But if you leave it open just once, just a little crack, not even wide open, but you leave that door open, that's enough for the insects, the pests, the gnats, and the flies and mosquitoes to get in, and now they're in your house. That's exactly what it is with the Tank haters. They seen the opening this big, and they went for it to get in the house. But then the New York State Athletic Commission ruled, aka the fly swatter, and now they're dead, and they don't have a point, and Lamont Roach is going to have to do what Boxing Ego said he should do all along. First of all, there are no participation trophies in life, but for sure in boxing. You got to draw. Who cares what the public is saying? A lot of the people in the public don't have scorecards. They don't know how to score a fight. That's for certain. Roger Mayweather told you, most don't know about boxing. So who cares what the public says when the public is not tasked with judging the fight? And Tank is still undefeated. He has a draw, as does Lamont Roach, and Tank has maintained his belt. It was pathetic and pitiful that the Roach infestation wanted to see their guy, who hasn't been their guy. The reason I know that is because he was with Pro Box TV before. Before that, he was with Golden Boy, and you guys never uttered his name until Tank selected him. Now everybody is suddenly a Roach fan. It's funny how that works. So that's all I've seen here. People, you give them an inch, they try to take a mile. You know, they try to make a mountain out of a molehill. These are the stats. Tank Davis actually landed very close. Like, you see Lamont Roach threw 400, but he landed 112. That's a lower accuracy rating. Tank was far more accurate, almost 40%, and he landed pretty close to the amount of punches by throwing less punches. So when you're actually scoring boxing and you actually care to do your job, you would ask, why is a guy throwing 400 punches just to land 112 punches? That's only 9 punches away from what Tank landed. And guess what? Tank landed more power shots and body shots, and he landed the more forceful shots. Now, there were some moments where Roach landed a good counter and stuff like that, but it's boxing. You're going to get hit. We're talking about 3-minute rounds at this level, championship fight. So, of course, this fight did not need to be overturned, but because of the Tank hatred and the people who hate, they were hoping for the worst, and now they look stupid and crunchy because the only option is for Lamont Roach to again enter this fight as a B-side, and now you're going to get a more focused Tank. Tank that's not playing around. Tank that will hopefully solve some of the issues in his corner and not be playing any games. Plus, I think he was cool with Lamont Roach. They came up together. There was no animosity. Now Lamont Roach is doing a lot, saying Tank hits like a beezy and talking crazy and spicy. So I think the gloves are off. So we're really going to get probably a dialed-in, focused Tank with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. We'll see what Lamont Roach can do under those situations. Again, I'm asking for someone to intelligently break down why you think this fight was going to be overturned after the fact. The fight is already over. They didn't do it in real time. They didn't catch it. It is what it is. Accidents happen. Human error happens. The person tasked with the job of officiating, they made a call. It's no different. I've seen fights where New York Commission, they had the ringside physicians look at Nate Diaz in the Jorge Masvidal fight. If you know Nate Diaz, he's game. He wants to keep fighting, but they ended the fight. You have to live with the results. Yes, Nate Diaz has fought through worse. You could say he was losing, but the ringside physicians in New York, they seen fit to call it the end of the fight, and that's it. There's no protest to it. The people in charge are refs, judges, and referees or doctors or whatever I didn't say, period. So they have the final call. Tank, it was a weird sequence of event. He explained it later, what happened. Steve Willis did his best to understand what was going in the heat of the moment. I mean, it's just simple stuff. We've seen other fighters like Terrence Crawford get dropped. They said it was a slip. I've seen Madrimov knock a guy down and it was really a knockout. They said it was a slip. Punch connected. So because it's Tank, it's everything on steroids, right? And I don't mean literal steroids, but I'm saying everything is amplified. I'll try to give you an analogy off the fly to help you understand why this would make no sense to change it after the fact, because the contest is over. So how can you determine if you told Tank in real time, round 9, you were knocked down, or just before the start of round 10, you said we did an instant replay. That is a knockdown. It was a blown call, yada, yada, yada. You got knocked down. Now Tank has the ability to decide how he fights. Why would you just assume that how the fight played out is exactly how the fight would have played out if you're deducting the point a week later, 2 weeks later, after the fight is already concluded? It doesn't make any sense, right? I'll give you an analogy. I used to work at Lowe's. I've been very open about that, right? Different positions worked up my way in the Lowe's company, right? If a person purchased, let's say, a ceiling fan, right? And the ceiling fan is $300, but there's a sale sign on that $300 ceiling fan, right? And the sale has ended. So it's not supposed to be on sale anymore. You have to honor that price. If you know anything about retail and stores, and you know you have to honor that. So I want you guys to be clear when I'm giving this analogy. So let's say a person put a ceiling fan at the register, had a ceiling fan in their cart, and you went to scan it, and the ceiling fan came up in the computer for $200. The customer says, "Ooh, that's a good deal." Buys it along with the other items. They leave the store with their receipt. They haven't performed it's not theft. You scanned it, the price that came up in the computer, $200. They paid for it, right? And let's say you find out that ceiling fan was really supposed to be $500. But when you scanned it, it came up $200, but the system didn't update or something. And now you call the customer and say, "Hey, you know that ceiling fan you got for $200? Yeah, it's actually $300 more, $500. So we're going to need you to come back to the store and give us $300 more because we made a mistake." Now, I don't know about you, but if I was that customer, I would hang up on Lowe's. I'd be like, absolutely not. You scanned it. I did nothing wrong. You told me it was $200. I paid $200, and the signage said $200. If there was any kind of discrepancies, that's on your end or your computers or your system. I'm not coming. Click. And I would hang up on them if I was the customer, right? You can't expect a customer because of so the point I'm making is simple. Even if the ceiling fan really is $500, but for whatever reason, when they scan the actual barcode, your system hadn't updated and populated with the correct price, and it came up $200, you have to eat that error. You have to eat that mistake. You know, you're lucky if a customer is like, "Oh, I'll come back to your store and spend another $300. And what you do is when you have these pricing errors, you go through and remove all the signage so it doesn't happen again. That's it. Right. So if you I've had to, as a manager, I've had to honor price discrepancies because somebody took down the sign on the shelf, but hanging on the ceiling fan, they have these little place card placards. They didn't take that down. And the person seen it and the model's numbers matched up and it says, "Hey, this is $200 for this model number." It's hanging on my sign. I got to give them to that. I got to give the customer the ceiling fan for that price. That's how it works. You could be like, "Oh, it's not our fault," or, "Oh, the pricing lady forgot to take down the signage. She only took down." You could try to explain it to a customer. It's not going to work. They're going to be like, they're going to feel, to be honest, it's going to make the customer feel like even more you're giving me that price because now I got you by the, you know what I'm saying? I got you. So you have to honor that. No more, no less. And then again, with these signage issues, you better get on your pricing team, train them, tell them this can't happen. We're losing money, fire, well, you know, whatever you got to do after the fact, you worry about that. And of course, change the sign so you don't have to do that. So the point I'm making as it correlates to Tank and Roach, if you felt a mistake was made, but it wasn't caught or nothing was done about it in real time, then that's it. You eat it. There's no more, no less. You could be mad. Tank haters can be mad. Lose sleep. Good. I don't care if you lose sleep. Cry about it. That's how you should handle those situations. Again, back to my ceiling fan pricing era. It's not even to say that there's not a true discrepancy, but the onus is not on the consumer because you have pricing issues that you scanned it and it showed a cheaper price. They paid a cheaper price. You can't expect to, after the fact. Or like, here's another variation that's pretty close to this tank fight is if you say, hey, I'm charging $300 more on your credit card because there was a pricing error. Bro, you can't do that, right? So I get it. There was a real pricing error. The computer populated $200. The sale is not on anymore. The price went up and it's supposed to be $500, but you can't just have the person's credit card information and type it in and say, hey, you're paying another $300 because we made a mistake. So why would you try to tax it on to Gervonta Davis in a fight that's already concluded? It makes no sense. And it's funny because the tank haters, I just gave that analogy that fits perfectly. And the tank haters, they want a point deducted weeks after the fight is concluded when it didn't happen in real time. But if the same scenario that I told you, where you paid what they told you the amount was for the ceiling fan, and then they just went and said, hey, we're adding $300 to your receipt because we didn't charge you correctly. After the fact, not in real time. Again, if you caught, so like if there was a pricing error and you caught it in real time, cool. Then you can maybe do something about it, right? But sometimes these errors occur, and when those errors occur, you have no choice but to honor it and keep it pushing. So that's my whole stance. The referee's in charge. He made a judgment call. Whether people like it, you don't start deducting and changing things and invalidating after the fact, because you completely negate a fighter's ability to change the tempo, pick up the pace, maybe fight different. Why would you assume that Tank, if he felt he was in a close fight, like for example, Tank said out of his own mouth, I didn't know what round it was. I had no clue. I thought it was the 9th round when it was the 12th round, et cetera, et cetera. But if they came to you and said round 9 was last round and we're counting that as a knockdown, then you would know what round you were in, right? So it changes the whole complexity of the fight by having whatever the information is, yay or nay, whether they caught it or didn't. You can't tell somebody we're not counting this as a point, and then they fight in accordance to what you told them. And then now if they were to overturn it, then that information you lied to Tank and said this is not going to cost you. It wasn't a true knockdown, right? And then 2 weeks later, because Lamont Roach is crying and fans are saying, hey, you got a point. Then if they were to overturn it, then they would go back on their word and be like, yeah, you know how we told you this wasn't going to cost you? Now it's going to cost you. It is not the right way to handle it. The only people that believe that it's the right way to handle it won't articulate it like me, and they're Tank haters. They just want Tank to be liable for a referee's call. And that's another thing. Tank didn't do this. If we're being honest, the commission appointed a ref, and the ref did the best he could in the given situation. It was a freak situation that rarely happens. Tank got like 30 fights. It's never happened in any of his fights. It's a one-off that I don't imagine. I mean, when's the next time that Tank's going to be yelling at Calvin Ford and taking knees and chemical burn in his eye from it's just a lot of stuff happened that given day. So what you do is run the rematch, and you just accept that it was a freak situation that we didn't catch in real time. Nothing like, for example, why didn't Lamont Roach insist on that being a knockdown. It's like he got emboldened hearing how many people supported him after the fact, and then they started pursuing this whole robbery because people were on his side. But in the fight, when all the commission is there, all the eyes, why didn't you be like, I'm not coming out until I get this point deducted? And then you would have been at an impasse, and they would have had to figure out right then and there. So why didn't Team Roach, if they really felt they were robbed and it was going to change the outcome, why didn't they protest in ring when you could do something about it, instead of allowing it to happen, waiting for the fight to conclude, waiting for fans to be like, hey, we support you, bud. You really beat him and it should have been a knockdown. Now you're bold and now you're appealing, trying to get it done retroactively. It's stupid. That's why I told you this would never work. Accidents happen. Manny Pacquiao fought Juan Manuel Marquez. One of the judges only gave credit to Pacquiao for 2 knockdowns when he had 3 knockdowns over Marquez in the first round. I have a whole video explaining this to you. I told you I'm the best in the business. So for me, this was a non-issue that people try to make into an issue because they don't like Tank and they wanted to see full-on calamity. But it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, if you are in a retail situation, you ring up a customer, you say this is the price, and then they go home after paying for it, and you call them up and say, hey, about this item, we undercharged you and it's really more expensive. Come back to the store or we're going to ring your card up and we're going to charge you the difference, the extra $300. Doesn't work like that. You got to eat it. If your employee made a mistake, your signage was a mistake, you got to eat the pricing error and just eat it. It don't matter if you lose profit or whatever, and then you got to train up your people, period. Now, the only way this would be different is if a customer came in and they cheated the system, right? Like if a customer switched tags around and then try to get the cheaper price, then that's theft, because this isn't an internal error. We didn't have our wires crossed. You took signage from somewhere else and then swapped it and then changed the numbers and manipulated. So it's like falsified, right? In boxing, the equivalent would be if a fighter tests positive for a banned substance, roids, SARMs or whatever. Now you have some unnatural aid and assistance that is not naturally produced in those levels. So that's the only time when fights really get overturned, right? They get overturned because you cheated to get that result, or we don't know how much this assisted you in getting this end result. But that is not the case for Tank Roach. This is not about somebody popping dirty. This is about how this call for Tank kneeling came to be. And like I said, Lamont Roach, his team should have put up a bigger fuss in fight while everybody's gathered so you can actually figure this out. You don't figure it out later and then say, hey, we told you in real time that you're not getting deducted a point, but now we're going to go back and say, yeah, we changed our mind. We're going to take that point off. Now Lamont Roach is declared the winner. Like, that is cheating. People keep saying that Tank cheated and stuff. He's not the referee. He's not the commission. So he didn't cheat. To me, what is cheating is to tell somebody one thing and then they accept it and then fight on, and then you don't like the outcome. So then after the fact, you go back and go against your word and say, we are deducting that point now. Because again, it's not about if the point is deducted or not. It's the fighter needs to know, are you deducting a point or are you not deducting a point, so they can make adjustments. So you completely strip the ability for said fighter to make adjustments or to improvise or to try something. Maybe Tank gets aggressive. Remember when they said Tank was down on the Mario Barrios scorecards potentially. Remember when Terrence Crawford's team said that he was down in the Sean Porter fight? You seen what Bud Crawford did. He went ham and then he knocked out Sean Porter in the next level or the next round. Same thing with Tank. In the Barrios thing, he upped his game and then produced knockdowns, which led to a knockout. You got to give the person that, right? Remember when Terrence Crawford fought at home in Omaha and his gloves exploded versus David Avocado? People were saying like, oh man, next round, we're going to have to switch gloves and stuff. So Crawford beasted and got in beast mode and just hurry up and start putting pressure on until because he was going to keep working until they called timeout or whatever, or until the end of the round. And then Crawford just got aggressive on Avocado and he ended up producing a knockout. So again, once the fighter knows that they're down or I'm going to have to switch gloves like Crawford, Avocado or whatever, then they have at least an opportunity to try to rectify it or to catch up, right? It's that simple. You wouldn't do a race and you got to go around the track 4 times and then the person says, how many times did I go through? And you say, this is your final lap. And then 5 minutes later, you said, never mind, you got 2 more laps. Like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? That's what happened. No more, no less. Tank Davis, as a fighter, deserves to know the ref's ruling, whether it's good or bad, and if he has a point being deducted. You can't do that after the fact and then deduct it because somebody appealed it. You would have had to catch it in real time. So for me, this is not a mystery. This is not shocking that they upheld the initial ruling. And it's a draw. It's not like Lamont Roach took a L. It's not like Lamont Roach was a champion and then now he lost his belt because of this. So it's like the simple fix here is to learn from the experience, all people involved. Tank, don't take a knee because that could count against you. Steve Willis, on the fly, maybe look at different options. Lamont Roach, if something like that happened, maybe protest more in the fight where they could do something about it instead of trying to appeal. Like, if you've ever been to court, it is better if you're about to see the judge, it's better to get whatever you need to get, like discuss it with the judge right then and there. That's always going to be a lot better than having to write or type or call the courthouse. The judge is right there seeing and hearing your case. You need to get whatever you need to get and the information you need to provide to them right now so the judge can make the proper ruling. You don't wait till the child custody hearing is over and then they already garnish your wages or whatever they did. And then you're like, oh, but wait, I got this new information and evidence to submit. You should have submitted it before the court case had a ruling and concluded. So this was always goofy to me, and I'm happy at the outcome.